Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm your host today on Archery Talk 101, and this is episode 149. We're getting up there. Just remember, if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can also listen to it on Audible. You can listen to it there free, and you also get a chance to watch the video if you go out to the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. There we have the video as well as on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself. So with us today, we have Chad. We're going to talk archery and hunting and all kinds of stuff today. So we'll get started here. Chad, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Well, how about if you introduce yourself and then tell us a little something about you?
So my name is Chad Stevens. I'm from Utah. I actually am a guide here in Utah, and archery hunting is my go-to. Love every aspect of it.
So you got a guide service you do it in Utah. What all do you guide for?
I do lions, bears, deer, elk, moose, mountain goats, bighorn sheep, you name it. If it's fair game, we go for it.
That sounds like a pretty interesting aspect there. You get to go look for all the different animals. Do you guide archery as well as gun, or just archery, or
I do archery, muzzleloader, and rifle.
whatever weapon of your choice, you get to go with you.
Yep.
That's pretty good. How did you get started in guiding?
Just the passion of hunting. I mean, everything about it, and I love to take people and get them that first chance, get them that trophy of a lifetime. That was the biggest part of it, just taking out people that normally don't have that opportunity.
And it's always good when you have somebody that knows the area. I know when you go to a new area, or even if it's in your own state, new area, you don't know what it's like, and to figure out what's going on. And I know when I first started, it was like, okay, you just got to spend days out there in the field to see where they're moving. And now with trail cameras, you stick trail cameras up and they can monitor it 24/7. So you can find out it's like, oh, they're moving at night. But where you're going to take and do all that. So now when we get there, we can just have you. It's like, okay, here's the best spot where they're moving this week.
Yep, that's exactly it.
And it gets you out in the field too, doesn't it?
My wife says I spend more time in the field than I do at home.
Well, yeah, that's to be expected, right?
Exactly.
When during hunting season, when you're guiding, you're going to be there pretty much all day, don't you?
I'm usually gone from August to January, every day.
Nice long season. Different seasons for different animals, I suppose, up there.
Yes, I mean August and September's archery, October's muzzleloader, rifle. Then we kind of move into our lion season, our late hunts. We do a little bit of extended archery, and that actually ends today. So
now on to the next group of different weapons.
Yep.
So what got you started in archery?
Just the passion of it, going back to your primitive stages, getting up close. And I mean, don't get me wrong, rifle, you still have to hunt for them, but you can take a 300-yard shot at an animal with a rifle. Yeah. But archery, you're right up close. You know the animal a lot better. It's more back to your roots of everything.
Yeah, if you learn how to hunt with a bow, it makes a gun easy.
Oh, very easy.
I know I've had shots that was well within the range, 100-yard shot at a deer, and I was like, that's too far away. Oh, I don't have my bow. I've got a gun. It'll reach out there, no problem. And you just get that mental attitude. It's like, I don't want to be 20 yards or less. And when they come beyond that, you just don't think about it. You have to kind of change the way you're thinking when you have, the long range weapon instead of the close range one. And I think it's a lot more fun hunting with a bow.
Oh, it's very
much challenging.
Yeah.
A little more reward when you have that. So Tell us about some of the hunts, maybe one of the hunts that you went on yourself that was challenging.
So this year I drew a once in a lifetime hunt here in Utah. It was my mountain goat, and I decided I was going to do it with my bow. It was it was rewarding to the max. Like, it's a species that not very many people get to hunt, and I chose to do it the hardest way I could. It was,
Making your odds pretty low there.
yeah. I mean, we hiked in 6 miles, scouted them out all season or pre-season, got to opening day, and everything just worked out to where we got there. And within 45 minutes, I had my mountain goat down on the ground.
Well, that is some good pre-scouting, isn't it?
Oh, it was fabulous.
Yeah, and with the hardest weapon you could use to get them.
Exactly. That, and like I said, archery it's my passion. I love every bit of it.
So I know you've probably guided quite a few people. What's been some of the unique stories of some of the archers you took out?
Oh, I've got plenty of those. I mean, I bring in a lot of Eastern guys here to Utah, and they just don't understand. Like, for us, 80-yard shot with their bow is really nothing. We'll take an 80-yard shot all day long, but a lot of the guys back east are 20, 30-yard max, and it's just so interesting to see when you're like, oh, that's an 80-yard shot, that's perfect, and they have no idea what to do.
Yeah, if you don't practice those long shots, you don't know how to shoot them.
No, you don't. I mean, I've had a very successful year taking people out this year, and it was, I mean, getting that guy in there from 80 yards down to 20 yards and just the sneaking. I mean, elk is one of the hardest animals you'll ever hunt.
Haven't
And,
hunted elk yet.
oh, it's a blast. It's completely different than whitetail or mule deer. It's something else.
Now, how does it differ from hunting a whitetail?
Um, Most whitetail, you're sitting in your tree stand a lot of the time, or in the ground blind. An elk, most of the time, you can't do that. You're spotting them half a mile to a mile away, making plans to work down the ridge, get the wind just right. In thick or open country, there's so many eyes watching you and having to stock in on them versus them coming to you. We have to go to them.
Little more activity on your part, then, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot more activity.
Yeah, a lot, a lot of time spent, hunting the animal where
Yeah.
you see them and then you know where you're going. And I know I talked to one guy one time that does a lot of archery, and he started out with rifles and went to archery, and he said somebody asked him one time, what's the difference between a rifle hunter and a bow hunter? And his response was the time you spend hunting.
Oh yeah,
Definitely. 80-yard shot with a rifle, your hunt's over. Your pre-hunt's the same time, your post-hunt's the same time. It's like now with archery, it's like you said, 80-yard shot, you would have took it with a bow, but if you're not comfortable with that, now you spend, how many days hunting that animal or hours?
I mean, to get from 80 to 20 yards, it could take you 3-4 hours trying to sneak in there versus the rifle where it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a different aspect when you're limited to your range. And I know I'm now more on the 20-yard range. I can't see my targets out that far anymore. So, those long 90-yard shots, it'd be a blur at the other end. It's like, okay, which part of this blurry image am I going to shoot?
Yeah, that would definitely play a big role in it.
Yeah, before, 40, 60-yard shots, I practiced those a lot. So, that wasn't too difficult. But now it's like, okay, there's a little vision problem. So I don't really shoot out those long ranges anymore because it's hard enough to see the targets at 20. Especially if you put I like to put like the little 1-inch circles up and shoot at those at 20 yards. So the great big target, put the little bit of 1-inch circles. Well, the problem is now I can't see that 1-inch circle anymore. So
like golf team.
that makes it a little bit tougher, but when you're shooting at a single or 5 spot, you can find the middle of it. It's still blurry, but hey, can't focus on the pin.
Yeah.
So what's you say you have lots of stories of your hunts on there. I always like hearing all the different stories of what's going on and some of the success stories and some of the failures, and those are always kind of cool stories to hear.
Well, this year, like I said, this year I've actually had a really good year. I decided this year I was going to use my bow with my turkey, and I went out 3 days, was watching this beautiful, beautiful bird, had him at 40 yards walking, and I took the perfect shot, put the turkey down. My elk I shot this year was 83 yards in a rainstorm. It's got to make it hard on myself.
Oh yeah.
Snuck in and put a beautiful lung shot on my elk. My mountain goat, of course, was 70 yards. Beautiful shot on that one. And end of December, I'm headed to Florida to gator hunt with my bow. So,
that'll be interesting. I haven't really talked about it. It's gator hunting. We'll have to get you back on after you go to Florida, and we'll talk about gator hunting with a bow.
yeah, and right now I'm chasing ducks and geese with my bow. I just, for some odd reason, got to make it hard on myself.
Yeah. Now, how's it going with ducks and geese with your bow? How you set up for that?
We set up in a blind, and I mean, it's your typical duck hunting. Just makes it a lot harder with your bow, waiting until they just barely get ready to land and take them out. Been pretty successful on it. If I had a shotgun, it'd be a lot more successful, but
Yeah.
of course. But
Now, do you use like a fishing type arrow, or what are you using for CrossFit?
yeah, so I'm using a fishing type arrow so I can retrieve it a lot easier. Got to watch out because my lab, he loves to go get them for me.
Oh, yeah. Can't get an arrow through it, and he runs out and goes and grabs it, and you gotta be careful of that arrow.
Yeah, he's gotten pretty close a couple times.
He'll learn.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I talked to one guy one time that he's shot his bow so much he ended up going pheasant hunting with his bow and was hitting them with the bow. And I don't shoot that much to be able to get that good at it. And for me, it'd have to be a recurve because I don't shoot compounds fast. It's just my mental attitude changes between which weapon I have, whether I got a long recurve, I got my compound, or I got my rifle or my shotgun, handgun. They're all the way I handle them and the way I shoot, and my mental attitude changes depending on which weapon it is. And I grew up with recurves because they didn't have compounds when I first got my first bow. They didn't exist yet. It was probably 5-6 years after I got my first bow before even the first one was even designed, and probably 10 years after that before you could even buy them. And I can shoot a recurve fairly quick, but I can't shoot compound because for me, compound, I come back with the anchor point, kisser button, peeps, all that for those. And every time I pick up a compound with no sights on it, I can't shoot it because it's a compound, and my mind changes. And that's something that some people do good at that. I don't, because I shoot them differently.
It's definitely been a big learning curve on that. It's so I can't even explain the learning curve of chasing elk and deer and stuff like that, where you anchor in and pull down on the animal. Where duck and goose hunting, you're like, oh, there it is, hurry and pull back quick. Oh, barely put it underneath the bird, let her rip.
Yeah. Yeah, it's less, you don't have to worry about pellets in the bird then.
No, no, no.
No lead shot in the bird on this one of those. So what other interesting animals have you hunted then?
I've hunted. Oh, I've hunted moose with my bow. Went up to Alaska last year with that one. That was very interesting. We tried bears and moose up there. It was pretty successful, but most of the time I'm pretty busy guiding everybody else to do it. So this year's been my year to go after everything.
Yeah. So if someone's interested in having you guide them up for a hunt, they're up in Utah, how would they get a hold of you?
You can just catch me on Facebook. Pretty easy to get a hold of. My outfitter's great to get a hold of. So, and then I can leave you my phone number. So if people want to call or text or whatever.
Yeah, and I'll leave all that information in the description, so it makes it easier for them to find them. Just pull up the description of the podcast, and it'll be there to click on it and link on it. And
yeah, it's a blast. Archery hunting is my passion. My wife loves it. My kids love it. My wife's probably actually killed a bigger deer than I have with her bow than I have.
oh yeah, it's kind of nice that your wife and kids like to hunt as well.
Oh yeah.
What what's some of the stories? If your wife or your kids want to get on and tell some of their stories, they're more than welcome. If they're around and want to hop on and tell stories too.
Well, I know my wife's deer, that her biggest one she killed. We were actually going up to the trailer, making sure it was okay in the middle of the week, and we decided to take her brand new car. Still had the temp tags in it. Got up to the trailer. Everything was good. We were driving out, and she started freaking out, saying, "Stop, stop, 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 stop." And there was just a beautiful 4-point right off the side of the road. She got out, shot it, and we decided, well, I guess we're putting it in the trunk of the car.
Yeah. Brand new car, and you got a deer that you've gutted sitting in the back trunk.
Yeah.
That's the way to break in a car. Yeah, that was kind of unique, where she just say, "Here, stop, stop, stop," and here's one, and get out and shoot it, and don't even have your truck, got your car. Brand new car at that.
Yeah, she didn't even care. She was happier than all could be.
That's pretty cool when you have a brand new car and you don't care if it gets all bloody inside because you got a nice deer in there.
Oh yeah. No, she supports it 100%.
That's good. What kind of bow do you shoot?
I shoot a Prime Nexus, and then my wife shoots the Matthews. I can't remember exactly which model it is, and then my kid shoots the Bear. So we're not judgmental. We'll shoot whatever.
Whatever fits you good and you like, right?
Exactly. Whatever feels comfortable. And that's the big thing I try to tell everybody. You don't got to go brand new. You don't got to go the top name brands. Just shoot what makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, shoot what you can afford. If you have to spend, couple $1,000s for a bow, and then you afraid to take it out, you might hurt it. then it don't do you any good.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because they're going to get beat up. You just can't avoid it, taking them out in the field and, just take care of them and fix what breaks.
Exactly. No, I remember my first bow was the PSE Nova, and that tells you how long ago that was.
I sold lots of them.
That, I mean, growing up from the age of 8 till I was about 22, I competed all over the nation, going doing the 3D leagues all over the nation. Had great support doing that, and so that just kept me going with my archery.
That's kind of nice when you go to the leagues. The nice about those is in the events is well, not really leagues, but the 3D events is it does help you on picking yardage and picking your spot.
Oh yeah,
I like going to them because it helps you. Okay, I can judge that yardage, and then I know if I put my pin here, it's going to go here. May not be the right place for the scoring, but the scoring rings aren't necessarily where you want to shoot it in live animal anyway.
Oh no, like you go to the ones and they're like, oh, this 12 ring is right there in the shoulder, and it's like, yeah, I like to keep mine a little further back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
helps not going through that shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Good shot for rifle, but not quite as good for a bow. Although I seem to go through that shoulder blade a lot.
No, I mean, I usually shoot about 75 pounds, so I can usually blow through a shoulder blade with my setup. So, but I still like to set it right behind the shoulder.
Yeah, little softer spot and
yeah,
hit a rib or two. It's no big deal. Yeah, it's um, printer's going off. Sounds like. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, all the different equipment out there and all the different broadheads. And do you see a lot of them going up there and hunting with mechanicals, or mostly fixed blades, or what are you seeing?
It's half and half. I usually use a mechanical myself, but I went to the fixed blade. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Crimson broadheads.
Yeah.
I started shooting those this year, and they've produced really well for me. And then I have a friend that owns an arrow company that his arrows are fabulous. I haven't shot anything really any better than what he has. And the penetration, the kinetic force that they throw out, it's impressive. It's very impressive.
Arrows make a big difference. I always got the straightest shafts once I started, getting a little bit more into it. Back when they were before carbons, I get the aluminum, the double X78s, which is a 0.015 straightness. So that's the straightest you get aluminum. And I would get new set every year right before hunting season. And I shoot brand new arrows at the deer. That just shoot them enough, get them tuned in so I know where they're going, and then I hunt with them. So I've got a brand new arrow I'm shooting at that deer, but I have the best grouping I can get with those arrows when I start for hunting. And now I shoot with the Comp Pros, which is a 1,000 straightness. That's what I don't have anything that I shoot less than that. That's what I shoot, and I figure the straighter the arrow, the tighter the groups, the less I have to worry about errors in my judgment.
Exactly. Get down to the little details.
Well, and I had one guy, one of my shooters when I had my store. He was shooting, I don't know what, the Beeman Hunters or something, as a 3,000th, I think it was, straightness, and grouping really well, not holding them all in the X ring, but still a good decent group. So I says, Jim, shoot some of my arrows because of the same draw length. He was just shooting left-handed. I shoot right-handed, but arrows don't care. So he shot a group of my arrows, and amazing how much tighter his group was just from a straighter arrow.
I get asked all the time. There people, well, why can't I just go get the Walmart arrows? And I'm like, it's just not worth it. Your grouping can go from an 8-inch circle, if you spend a little bit more money, down to a 2-inch circle.
Yeah,
just off the arrow.
Well, and then too, I had one where I showed one of the little videos I did, probably a year and a half ago. I've got some arrows that were Robin Hooded, and I showed the difference in penetration between the cheap arrows and the expensive arrows. Now I've got mine when I'm shooting my PSE arrows at 70 pounds at 20 yards, only went in just a few inches. I got some of the cheaper ones, probably not shot at 70 pounds. They weren't ones I shot, but most people shoot 60. And amazing, they went through about twice as far into the shaft. That's just a difference in quality of good quality arrows and the cheap Walmart ones.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, he'd go buy all the clearance of the Walmart arrows because he was shooting pigeon in the barn. So you get about one shot, maybe two shots, and the arrow's shot anyway. So why spend high dollars on it when you're shooting up in the beams, so you get the pigeon or you hit the steel beams. So, so he'd go buy all the clearance ones because they were good for one, maybe two shots anyway. But I wouldn't do that with arrows I shoot because now I don't know what a good dozen of, the good quality straight ones cost now, but they're probably pushing easily $10 an arrow.
Oh, most of them are more than that now. They're closer to the $20 mark.
Oh, close to the $20 mark, yeah.
Yeah, so
I haven't bought arrows since when I had my store. I closed it in 2004. So I have plenty of arrows, so I'll never have to buy arrows again.
yeah, but like I said, my buddy's arrows, surprisingly, we've tested them and we've shot. We took his wife's frying pan out and decided to shoot that multiple times, and it went through 10 different times and never hurt the arrow one bit.
I know I took when I had my store, it was somewhere I don't know what I did, but I ended up I shot one of my arrows with field tips on it through a commercial steel door. It went up to the fletching and did not hurt the arrow at all. Because it actually penetrated through. Then one night I was shooting my broadhead target when I was at the store and I was tired. I messed up. I missed the target, hit above the whole thing, hit in the concrete block wall. And that's my muzzies. And I go walking up there because I heard it hit and it's like, oh man. So I went up there. The broadhead was sticking in the concrete block. There was half the insert was on it, and the other half was the shaft was laying on the ground, and it cracked it back about an inch. That's all it did. At 70 pounds at 20 yards into a concrete block.
Yeah, these carbon fiber arrows versus those aluminum arrows it's quite interesting to see how they did it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different grades of carbon out there. And, there's a lot of things you can do to get your best performance out of them. You can float them to find the heavy point on them because they'll sink to the bottom. And, you can go through a whole bunch of stuff. And I took one time before carbons were out, I took my set of aluminum arrows and I fletched them all up, stuck them on my scale, weighed them, wrote on the shaft what it weighed. And then I took all my points that let you shoot 100 grain tips, bullet points. So I weighed all those, got all those measured out. And then I matched. So the total weight of the shaft was as close as I get to being the same. I'm filing the back of inserts to get the weight there. I got the whole dozen within half a grain.
That's impressive.
And I did it once. I would have charged double the cost of the arrows to do that. I never did it again because I just did it. Yeah, and an engineer, your mind thinks about those things like that. And, I figure if they're all exact the same weight, it's going to fly the same speed. Now, there might be slightly difference in, where the weight is. The tip might be a little bit lighter on one, a little heavier on one, but I just got them all exactly the same. So if I'm sending it at 70 pounds at 29-inch draw length, I'm going to exert the same amount of force into every shaft, which means they should fly exactly the same. Now, minus fletching variations in there, but
Yeah.
I didn't fletch with one jig. So, I had my store, I had 8 bits and burgers and 12 BPEs and a Jojan. So, and come before a hunting season, they're all full, all busy, constant day and night, for probably 3 weeks to a month, fletching
Oh,
arrows. Because when I had the store, I just bought raw shafts. I didn't buy any fletched arrows. Everyone was a custom made arrow. You come in and it's like, well, what colors you want? You want 4-inch vanes, 5-inch vanes? You want 4 or 5-inch feathers? What colors you want? And then you'd pick out your colors and that way everybody had their own unique thing instead of going to stores now. And it's like, okay, I get choice of 2 orange and a white, or 2 white and orange, or sometimes you got different colors, like you whatever it is. And I kind of like, picking my colors. And
mine are blue and silver. Matches the strings on my bow, matches my sight, everything. So I definitely art.
You can get them all matched, that way it looks like it's all designed to be together. And the deer don't care.
No, the deer
don't care. It's just we do.
We got to have a little show on our equipment. A little show.
Yeah. Well, and then I did a set of strings. Well, actually, a couple set of strings differently when I made them. Instead of the normal twist, they still had twist in them, but they were braided. So when you look at the string, they form little V's as you're going up and down the string. And I did it on a buddy of mine's bow, and I guess I did it on, didn't remember doing on this other guy's, his wife's bow, and he started making strings. And he's going to see this podcast, but he's like, well, how do you do that? Because his daughter went on made the same way. It's like, how did you do that? So I have a video going to come out here as soon as I get it put together on how I made those, just so he can make the strings. And it's kind of different, I actually did a 3-color braid on one. And how you braid strings together, one over the other and then back and forth. And so I took 3 colors and I braided them that way. It was like 3 different kind of camo type colors, tan, a dark green, and I forget, maybe a light tan or something in there. I forget what the colors was, but that forms a little bit different type of a string as well. And I had that on my bow for quite a while until it finally broke.
How well does it work out? Does it change with it being braided versus twisted? Does it change a whole lot? Or
well, what you got to do is you got to realize it takes more string.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna take.
So if you need a 102-inch string, if you start with 102 inches, by the time you stretch it, you're going to gain a little bit, but by the time you braid it, you're down too short. So, and then you twist it on top of it. So you got to figure out, okay, how much to go here. And then once you get it braided, hopefully it's not too long. And then how much can you twist it? Because you can still twist it on top of that. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to try and work through when I create that video, is like, okay, I'm going to make a string this long. And there's a couple different ways of making strings. A lot of them just take the strings, like the tail ends, just leave them hanging loose and serve over them. But then they go in through it and they're putting the string under 100, 150, 200 pounds of pressure and letting it sit for a day or so to get all the stretch in it. Well, I tie all of them together, so it's one continuous loop. Maybe different colors. And then when I have it measured out on the jig, those that don't know, the jig has two prongs that stick up, and then you can twist them to serve in between them to serve the end loops. And I will put it as far as I can, and then lock them in, and then turn them, which puts a lot of pressure on them. So I'm putting a lot of pressure on it as a single strand. So when I get done making my strings, I've never pre-stretched them, or post-stretched them after I made them, but I don't have any trouble with my string stretching because I've already stretched them in a continuous unit. So as you're making your string, you're wrapping it around, you tie the ends. Each strand has a different amount of pressure on it. Depends on how tight you wrapped it. And then when you get to the end, how much did it relax back on that last loop? So that's what you're trying to stretch out. You're trying to stretch all those strands so they're all the same tension. But when one continuous strand gets tied together, so it's one big loop, as you put pressure on it, it's going to take the tension and even it all out before you even start serving it. So that's why I do mine a little bit differently. And, there's all kinds of different string materials out there. One of the new ones is the 452X. That come out after I got all mine. I got 8125s that I make my compound strings out of. And I'm not switching because I got so much of that material. I could make a new string every month and still not run out of material. I'd have to have new serving material because I don't have as much of that, but the actual raw string material, and there's tons of different colors. I was doing one where I was trying to figure, okay, what kind of colors can we use? I was doing some videos on how to make strings and working on a bow. And now those of you that are listening to this, you can't tell, but I have, let's see where he is. Here's one I did with kind of a chartreuse green and a kind of a that might be mountain berry, and that turned out kind of a nice little color. Here's one I did with copper and black. Then here's one I did with purple and pink. Can't really tell the purple. Well, you can a little bit on it, looks like on the camera anyway. And then copper and blue. And then there's some other ones too. I think they fell on the floor here. I had them hanging on my one knob on my desk. But that's kind of the different colors you can do. And there's probably BCUI has probably about 15, 20 different colors that you can get. And in multiple different types of strings. Each type of string has different characteristics. Some are really thin, so you have a lot more strands. This one here is I think it's like 14 to 18 strands is what it's recommended. I put them in the middle, put 16. 18 strand makes it really fat, and some of your cams just don't have big enough track for them. So one of the things you can do when you're making your own strings is, so I've seen some where they don't completely serve it all the way around the cam. So now you got part of your string that's not covered by the serving. And then so I can extend it out. Some extend it out so far you've got 4 or 5 inches extra serving. Extra serving is going to slow your bow down because it's extra weight on your string. So you can do that. I always serve the end loops, not like I did on the sample ones, because I didn't want to go through the work of that. When you have just loose strands, you can get your strands off like here, this one's separated out. You got to kind of put them together. So I always serve them when I'm making a real string. I always serve that loop so I have a nice place to get them on there, because I've put some of those on, and you look at it, it's like, I missed one of the strands. So you got to put it back in the press, put it back on there, and sometimes they'll get twisted. And yeah, I like to serve them, so you can kind of customize them when you're making strings, and kind of fun to do. I'm not as fast as I used to be at making strings, but I got where it was less than an hour for me to make a string, and I even had one guy come in, called me up about 10 minutes before we closed, said, "Do you have a string for a bow, or can you make one?" Because he knew I made strings. And I was like, "I don't have one because I got no strings in stock, that anybody ever used, because there were ones that were probably 15 years old when I got the store." And I says, "Okay, well, come in." He says, I said, "Close in 15 minutes." He says, "Well, I got to shoot tomorrow and I need a new string." I was like, okay, well, come on in. So we closed up. He come in, and I think it was a dart and bow. They have a skinnier track than most of your camps. So you make the normal one and it's too fat for it. So I started making it and I got it served. Well, no, it's too fat, won't work. So I threw that string away, made a new one, 2 less strands in it, and then put it on there. And by the time he walked in, it was not even an hour and he's walked out with new strings.
I need an archery shop like that around here, man. That's some service.
Now, because I was willing to stay after we closed and make the string for him. Otherwise, I'd have just made it the next day. Yeah, but he needed it for a shoot he was going to tomorrow. And he had to go down to the range and get it shot in and make sure everything is all set up, because new string may not be exactly the same length because it's made to the length it's supposed to be, not necessarily the length that it was. So that might change. New strings can act a little bit differently than worn out strings. So you got to shoot and make sure everything's all right. You don't go to a shoot and not know where your sights are. You always check them out. And that's kind of interesting, and how you can do that. And I had one guy come in, called me up, and he says, can you set my bow up to shoot 2 arrows at once? Because there's 2 other shops in town. They all told him no. They just flat out no. And I says, well, why you want to do that? It's like, well, because he did. I was like, well, you can't afford me while I'm open. So show up at about time closing and we'll go play. And it wasn't the center side design riser. It was used the stick-on ones as an older bow. So you could use, so I put 2 stick-on rests on there and we're playing around all kinds of stuff. And what we found was, depending on how you put the loop, because when you shoot a release, how you put the loop on makes a difference on whether or not you'll be consistent grouping. And the way we ended up doing it was able to shoot an arrow, and the difference between each group on the distance between the arrows was about 1/8 of an inch. Shooting 2 arrows. Now they're half as fast as they would have been with one, but what we found was, so we tried putting a loop in between the 2 arrows. We could not group them. They were just all over the place. We tried below it, above it. What we found out, the only way to get works, tie your knot above the top arrow and below the bottom arrow. And by pulling directly behind both of them, we got a consistent grouping. And from that, we, doing all this, we realized the best way to put a loop on is not with a nocking point. Don't tie any kind of a knot or anything in there. Your loop goes 1 knot above the arrow, 1 knot below the arrow, and you have them so tight against it that there's no slop in the arrow. And now as you pull back and release, that string is going to put the force directly from the nock to the tip. And the reason you want to do that, now, of course, your bow has to be set up to be a center shot setup, as well as your height needs to be set so that you're level on that. But I like to equate it to take a pencil, set it on a table, and take your finger and push on the eraser straight towards the tip. Your pencil will go straight. Now take your finger slightly at an angle and push. That pencil wants to just rotate. That's what you're doing to your arrow when you shoot, and that is not lined up perfectly behind the nock. That's learned over the years.
That sounds very interesting. I mean, that's some trick shooting right there. Set it up to where you can put a playing card with 2 balloons on each side and pop both balloons. And
yeah. Well, the guy was a motivational speaker and he wanted to use his bow to get the kids' attention. So like put up 2 balloons up there and then shoot and pop both balloons. You get the kids' attention.
Oh, for sure.
That was the whole reason for it, was he wanted to get their attention. Shooting 1 arrow was like no big deal. Shoot 2 arrows and hit 2 different targets. Now that's a little bit different story.
Yeah, that took some engineering right there.
Yeah.
That one out.
I don't think we'd be able to do it on a new modern bows with the center shot design riser, because I don't know how you get the second rest on there.
No, I don't think you could. I think I've seen where a guy had shot 4 arrows out of it at one time.
But it's going
Oh
to
my-
take a special rest in order to be able to do that.
Yeah. And it was pretty well the same concept of what you were just describing. And he lined up 4 balloons straight up in a one on top of the other and took out all 4 balloons with it. I mean, I'm in my mid-30s and I was impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some shooters out there that are really good. I like watching this one lady. She's normally on TikTok. I think her handle's Freedom Feathers. Um, Jennifer Delaney, I think is her name, and she shoots recurve, and she'll throw up aspirins and shoot them. She'll take playing cards and shoot them on the edge. I seen one where she had water dripping and shot the water drop as it dropped. All kinds of stuff like that. She taught herself how to shoot really well, and I just like watching different things that she's doing, and take a pop can and flip the top up on it and shoot the arrow through the hole in the pop top, and all kinds of stuff like that. It takes lots of practice to get that good with a recurve.
Oh yeah.
Now, I don't think you're shooting long range, but
I remember the recurve days where we were shooting 20 yards was our max shot, and we were doing all sorts of tricks like that. Shoot a axe head with your arrow, split your arrow, and hit the balloons. That was quite fun. Expensive, but fun.
yeah. Now that I think the wood shafts are about as expensive as the aluminum shafts were in carbon. They're not cheap, the wood shafts anymore.
No, they're not.
So yeah, what's probably been your most memorable hunt you've been on?
My most memorable hunt. That would have been my oldest son, taking him out on his first archery hunt, and it was on mule deer. We got permission from one of the landowners to go hunt his cornfield, and kind of did it like your whitetail hunts, where you waited for him to come out and feed and ambushed him, and just watching the excitement in his eyes, just that glow when he pulled back his bow and took that shot. And that right there was probably my most memorable hunt I can think of. And that really pushed me with the guiding, is just seeing that glow in his eyes and knowing that it's something that he'll always do.
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you take your kid or somebody else out for their first hunt. And I know some of the things that I with my oldest son, I was telling him a story and he don't remember it anymore, but it meant I remembered it. Was out hunting in the rain, and it was supposed to quit raining, and he was with fairly close to me, and the other guys hunting with, he was there, and it's like it was supposed to rain by 7:30. Still raining. 8 o'clock, still raining. 8:30, still raining. 9 o'clock, still raining. So, you know what? We're not going to sit any longer in here. It's not going to stop anytime like the news people are saying. And so we decided to get down. My son and I walking down the hill, and here's this doe standing broadside to us, probably 20-25 yards away. And I stop and I tell my son, it's like, okay, get your arrow ready, because they're going to look at me. They're not seeing you behind me. They're looking at me. And you get ready. And then, once you're ready, just kind of step off to the side and out, and then you take your shot. Well, by the time he got ready, it had walked off. But, that was kind of interesting. We go in there and we're getting ready to leave, and here's this deer. And we weren't hunting on the way out. We hadn't seen anything, and like, well, let's just go. We're getting kind of wet, and we want to just go, and that was kind of interesting. But he does remember his first one we stalked. We seen this deer coming, and he had to stalk up on it, and so he's sneaking up to it, and I just kind of stayed back because both was trying to get up there was going to be too difficult. and he gets in there and he didn't come to full draw when it was still behind the evergreen tree. So it steps out. And now he can't draw, but he got within bow range. He just didn't know because he was just new at it. He didn't know that you come to draw before they step out, so you're already at full draw. And that was kind of interesting. He did sneak up close enough to him to get the shot. It's just he didn't draw when he needed to.
That's just a learning curve.
Yeah. Well, he's done a lot more hunting since then, so he's gotten a little better.
Yeah. No, it's another one of my memorable ones is taking the kids out bow fishing, shooting the catfish and carp with your bow, and walking down, finding shadows, and waiting for that fish. Just the reflection, learning that learning curve right there, trying to shoot through water.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done that one, but you don't
Yeah.
aim right at.
You can't aim where they're at because that's not where they're at.
No. So
I had somebody ask me that one time, and so I actually created a little video on it. It's like I took a glass of water and stuck I don't know, it's a pencil or something in there, and showed the picture of the side, and the goes down and jumps over, and as soon as you can see where it hit the water, it just shifted over. It's like, see, they're not where they're supposed to be, and depending on how deep they are and your angle, it all changes all that. So where do you aim?
yeah,
You got to figure, okay, are they on the surface? Then just aim right there. If they're down, are they down 6 inches, a foot, 2 foot, 3 foot? The further down they go, the further off you have to aim.
it's just another learning curve.
Yeah. Well, nice thing about it is if you miss, you pull your arrow back and shoot again.
Yeah, pretty easy to retrieve with that fishing system.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun sometime to take the fishing bow out and those the Asian carp that jump.
That would be.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. As long as they don't jump into your boat. I've seen videos of guys taking with shotguns, and when they jump up, shoot them. They're just so invasive. You need to get rid of them, and however you get rid of them really doesn't matter.
Baseball bat, shotgun, bow.
Yeah. I don't know how they are at eating. I don't know if they're like any other, regular grass carp or not. I've never talked to anybody that's ate one.
From what I've heard, they're not that great.
A lot of people think carp's not that great, but depends on how you fix it.
Yeah, that's true.
I smoked a carp one time. I forget what I used for wood. It wasn't hickory because I don't go good with fish. It's probably a plum. And like I was eating it, and I was like, man, this almost tastes like ham. It was actually really good smoked.
I'll take your word on that one.
Well, you go to some. We've got a couple of restaurants around here. Well, one's closed up, but the other one, you can go get catfish and carp. And the problem with the one when I went to the one, they took the carp and they scored it where the bones were at, so instead of getting around the bones. So now then you have the piece where they scored around where the bones is just fried to a crisp, and you have to get in the meaty part to get to anything that's not like fried to a crisp. And it's like, I wasn't too impressed with it. It's like I fixed better carp than that.
Well, personally, I'm not a big fish eater, so that's on my to-do list of not to do.
On your not to do is eat fish.
Yeah. No, I like my wild game. I'll take wild game any day of the week.
Yeah, and it's better than eating beef. There for a while, I had so much venison I was eating. I wasn't eating any beef, and every time I'd have beef, it's like, ooh, this tastes nasty. What is this? Oh, that's just beef. They got completely different flavor.
Oh yeah. Whitetail is one of my favorite though. I really enjoy that one.
That is good. Now, have you had, you say you got moose up there? Have you had any moose?
Yeah, moose is really good. I'd still say whitetail's still better than moose, personally.
I went up to Canada moose hunting back in '95 and got a moose, got a cow moose, and I thought that was the best meat, by far better than the whitetail, and a whole lot more of it too.
Oh yeah, there's a big difference there.
Yeah, yeah, almost 500 pounds of meat.
Well,
on
when
a moose.
you take the one back strap and you off the moose, and it's about equivalent to your whitetail meat wise.
Yeah. Well, and I was amazed at how big the liver was. You know, I didn't keep the liver and the heart from it because I don't generally eat liver, and you know, so it draped over my arm, so it filled probably from my wrist, but almost up to my elbow, and it draped over it, and it hung down probably 6 or 8 inches on both sides, and it was probably an inch and a half or 2 inches thick. I don't remember now, but it was a big hunk of meat in that liver. Kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Then with our lion hunts that are coming up here too, one of my favorite things to do is take them with an archery. It's it's definitely more crucial to make sure your shot placement is perfect. But that's our next season right now, is getting ready to get rolling on our mountain lions.
Now, how do you hunt the mountain lions?
I have hounds. I have a pack of hounds that I use.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
go we'll go out, find fresh tracks or old tracks, doesn't really matter to us. And we'll just release the dogs, wait till they get it treed, and make our death march up to the tree, get in a good position, and take them out.
Do they have a problem with mountain lions up there, or is it?
Um, Depends on who you ask. The guys that hunt lions say no, but the deer and elk hunters say yes.
Oh, yeah, because the mountain lions care a lot of deer and elk.
That's what they claim. But the guys that actually hunt lions we all don't think there's enough of them.
Have you ever kind of analyzed what they've been eating?
Um, so they usually will pick off your weaker animals that normally wouldn't survive. Your older deer, your crippled deer. They eat a lot of turkeys, but they don't pick off as many animals as people claim they do, in my opinion. So, and it really is just a lot of deer. They don't really mess with the elk as much.
Unless, like I said, there's injured or something, and then they'll easy
Yeah,
meal.
easy meal. Yeah, they're an opportunist. If it's there, they'll take it.
No, just like anybody else, if the opportunity is there, take it, right?
Exactly.
So after the lion season, then what's next after that?
Bears and turkeys.
Bear and turkeys.
Yep.
A big bear to a little bitty turkey.
We usually throw a few tags in our pockets when we're out chasing bears for turkeys, because we always seem to run into them.
And if you didn't have the tag, you wouldn't be able to shoot them.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
take it back to camp and roast it over the fire, and you got fresh turkey. It's a win-win in my opinion.
yeah. And for those that haven't had wild turkey, it's a completely different flavor. You get to go to the store and the white meat's all white, and then your dark meat's dark. And the wild turkeys I've had, the white meat is more of a tan than white, and then the dark meat is really dark.
Yeah, I think a wild turkey it tastes more like your dark meat on a domesticated turkey.
Yeah,
A little more stringy, but that's just part of it.
Yeah, and don't overcook it and cut it up and away you go.
Yep. Throw some bacon over it. Get some moisture down into it.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a lot of good meals there.
Oh yeah.
Turn over your turkey and crisp up that bacon and get that nice bacon fat in that turkey. Because there's not a lot of fat in them,
No, there's hardly any fat in a wild turkey.
not like your domestic ones that have lots of fat in it
All the injections and
and
MSG.
water. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of weird. You look, you grab a hand and you're just a ham and you're pouring out water after water after water, and then there's like all this water's in it, and then you cook it. It's got all this more water comes out of it, and it's like, did I buy ham or water?
You definitely bought some water.
Yeah, but some ham flavored water. So what is probably your most favorite meat to eat?
Um,
I know you said you like whitetail, but
that's a hard one. It just depends on the moment. Like every time we go camping or on a guided trip, elk burgers. Everybody loves the elk burgers.
oh yeah.
And then when I'm at home, I just go back to the basics of fried deer steaks and mac and cheese.
Deer steaks and mac and cheese, huh?
Exactly. That's my kids. That's one of their favorite meals. Grew up eating it and passed it on to them.
So do you use your mac and cheese out of a box, or you have your own way of making it?
I have no idea how my wife makes it.
Oh, she makes it. Okay.
I get the deer steaks, she gets the mac and cheese.
Sounds like a winner there.
Oh yeah. And then we do like take a lot of our neck roast off our elk or deer and kind of make it like a jalapeno popper. Put the cream cheese in there, your jalapenos, and roll it out or cut it about half-inch thick, roll it out or put it out, smother the cream cheese, throw some bacon in there, some jalapenos, roll it back up and throw it on the smoker. And that is probably by far one of the best ways to eat it.
That sounds good.
So it really just depends on what you're in the mood for, where we're at, what we're doing. It's hard to say exactly what our favorite is.
As long as you're um, eating it and enjoying it and found a way to fix it, that's the sometimes the hard part when you first start out. I don't know. I first got deer hunting and got my first deer. The deer meat lasted us about a year before we finally ate it up because we didn't know best way to fix it, and we didn't really know what to do with it. But then it got to where, several years later, after I'd had my moose, the freezer was full. I had deer in there, that was full. Got another deer, and I had no freezer space for it. So it's like, okay, started cutting it up and sticking it in the dehydrator, making jerky out of it. And I think about 2 weeks later, that deer was gone. As soon as the jerky was done, my kid's like, is it ready yet? Yeah, okay. Start the next batch. And as they're eating that all up, so just kind of cycling through the dehydrator. And so it lasted about 2 weeks.
Yeah, we usually go through about 40 to 50 pounds of elk or deer jerky a year.
So you make it yourself, or do you send it out to be made?
I send it out. I'm usually too busy this time of year to do it myself. So I have a pretty good friend that's a butcher, and he does it all for me.
Oh, that's good. At least you're getting your own meat back then.
Oh yeah, he's very good about that, making sure I get exactly what I took to him. Do our sausage, our hamburger, our steaks, our roasts, and our jerky.
That's kind of the point. That's why I do a lot of my own processing, because the plants we had around here, the processors, you couldn't be sure you was getting your own meat back. And especially when I had a couple of friends when I took some in, and one guy took in a deer that was probably 30 or 40 pounds heavier, and then went to pick up the meat. Same time, we got the same amount of meat back. It's just like, wait a minute. I brought in almost a 200-pound deer, and Jim was like 160 or 180 pounds. And it's like, why did I get the same amount of meat back? Like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, and grabbed some more meat and brought it back out to me. That's also the same place that donates hundreds of pounds of meat every year. I'll guarantee that people are not paying for the processing and leaving it or donating it. So they're shorting people.
Oh yeah, it's a big problem everywhere.
Yeah, they're shorting you so they can have all this donation meat, to make them look good. They're donating all this meat. It's like, how much meat did you kill yourself? As opposed to how many actually donated it, and then how much extra you giving away that should have been sent out to people that brought their meat in, their deer in. So I started processing it myself. I know our first deer we processed, cut up. My cousin had got a deer and said to my brother and I, it's like, I'll give you half of it if you want to cut it up for me. So we had never cut one up. So we're trying to figure out, we're getting books and stuff. That was before the internet, So, we couldn't just like, okay, how to butcher deer. So we're figuring it out and cut it all up. And, that was our first experience at cutting up a deer and, just trying to figure it out. And, how do we want them? And now it's easy to do. It's, we hang them up, take the jammies off, as Nugent says, and cut them up. And, we got where we'd hang them and we're just cutting them off and taking the bones out. Next thing you know, we got the carcass hanging there and all the meat's off, and here's the carcass left, and we've already deboned it and get really quick at that. And one thing that I've seen people take, well, here's how to take your hide off with a golf ball, and they wrap around, take the truck and just pull it off. Well, there's easier ways of doing that. We discovered it by accident one time. The deer was all dirty, and you wanted to hose it out, so we hosed it all out and hosed the hide all down, and we hung it up. So and the hide just basically just fell off almost. It had loosened the hide up off of the meat, and it come off really easy. So after that, we started soaking them down before we did any of them. We'd hang them, we'd soak them. So the hide comes off so much quicker.
We use an air compressor. Punch real air and just blow the air in there, and it just falls off after you get that done.
Yeah. Anything to loosen that hide off of there.
But yeah, the air compressor, that you have to try that one. That one's real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I have to get an air compressor close enough to it. I can do it.
Yeah. Grab your 100-foot hose and go over there.
Yeah. Or just bring it out and run an extension cord to the air compressor. I got a small one I can carry around. I got another one that's on a cart that's got wheels, so I just have to pull it off and plug it in. And so for our house here, the outside plug is also the light runs on it and the refrigerator runs on it. I haven't rewired that part of the house yet. The other part's done, but not the kitchen dining room area. So I'll be out in the garage and have the compressor on. It stopped. I was like, oh man, pop the breaker. The refrigerator got no power now. So I'll go running downstairs, flip the breaker, and go back out. I got a generator now, so what I do if I'm going to run that, I just pull the generator out and fire it up and run it off the generator.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. When I get around to it, I'll run a 220 out there so that I can run welder on it and stuff like that. But right now, I got other things that's on my list of to-dos before I run out there for that.
Yeah, you guys should be pretty good active with your deer hunt right now, aren't you?
Yeah, we just got done with rifle season here last weekend, and archery's still going. Goes to the end of the year. Starting, I think it's tomorrow's the 1st anyway. December 1st is muzzleloader for the whole month of December here in Nebraska. So we can use the muzzleloader or the bow.
That's on one of my to-do lists is head to Nebraska and get me one of your guys' monster muleys.
Yeah, you'll be going out in the western part, not in the plains and sandhills, and yeah, they're complete. They're a spot in stock. You don't just sit for them either.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited for that one. I think that's in my 2 years from now is Nebraska muleys. So
Yeah, that'd be fun. There's a lot of land out there. If you get that part of the state, there's a lot of public land out there as well, and of course then you got private property too. But I'm over at the other end of the state.
well, if you're anything like me, you'll drive everywhere for them.
Yeah, we got to look for a little bit more land. I've got the two spots I have right now. They don't hold a lot of deer. The one is mostly travel corridor. You do see a little bit during the day, but it's mostly a travel corridor at night. I actually pulled some video off about midnight at night. Two little small bucks kept walking around, and this one night they come in, they walk through, they come back, and then they start facing each other and kind of halfway playing at sparring and sticking their nose on each other, and then they kind of quit, and then they just walked off together. Two little ones. I posted on my YouTube channel, and it's like I thought that was kind of interesting. Kind of middle of the night. They're not really shooter bucks. They're a little small. We do have a nice buck that runs around there once in a while, but all at night. Right around the midnight time frame, and can't shoot them.
I have to try one of those. Can you guys use feeders out there?
Up to about 30 days, I think, before season starts. I was thinking about that, trying to make make them a little spot, a little bedding area where they can kind of be protected, like sleeping during the day and get them there in the day, and then put up a feeder, up until just before season that goes off during the day, and that would be in morning and evening or something, to get them to come there. In the middle of the summertime, a bit later summer, they've got corn or beans to eat, so they're not going to really come to a feeder because they got food
All
where
the food.
they're at. So it's before the grasses start turning green, like now. Well, actually not now. In January, middle of January, after a late rifle season ends, then you could put a feeder up and get them coming into getting used to coming in there because they're going to find the food. Get them coming there during the day.
That would be what I would do is try to get them to come in the day.
Yeah.
Set an alarm on there where it goes off at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year on the cameras in February, I caught a group of them come in the morning, and then like the next night they was there during the day. That's pretty much mostly all I caught on my cameras. That was the only time I caught them during the daylight. And then it's February after season's over.
Of course, that's the only way they do.
Two different times they were there during the day, one in the morning, one in the evening. And it's like, now, well, so I know that's not a good spot. But they do come through during the day where I have my ladder stand, but on the property to the south of us that we don't have permission to hunt. So this summer, I think I'm going to try and see if we can get permission to hunt over there, and I'll just clear a shooting lane. Like if I'd have sat in my ladder stand this last rifle season, I could have shot the one, but it was where I couldn't shoot anyway. So we never cleared all the shooting lane because I couldn't shoot over there anyway. So I didn't clear the lane. There's one come running through and stops. So I got my camera with me on a tripod, and I started the camera so watch it down there, and then it run off, and just a bit later I seen three more deer come running through the field. Those deer were running through the field, so this one run off too. I'm like, oh man, something spooked those other three. Or maybe something spooked the four of them, and they just thought it was safe there until they come running through, and like it's all they seen. but it was during the day in the morning.
Okay.
So they do go through there. That off that cornfield is where they do. It's kind of a travel route where they do come through there. I just gotta get them to come onto this property, and that's where I was talking to one of the guys in one of the podcasts. I learned a lot on these podcasts. You know, I don't know about anybody else, but I learned a lot. So, but he was saying, just take some dead branches and make kind of a little circle with a little place to get them so they can kind of hide, and then they'll kind of more turn it into like a bedding area. And then now they'll be there during the day, so they'll be coming there in the morning and leaving in the afternoon. When they go out roaming around at night. So I was like, well, that's something we'll have to do once we get back in there after the season. I don't want to start doing all that during the season.
No, you'll push everything out of there if you do that.
Yeah. It's kind of sneak in, sneak out. Don't make any more noise than you have to.
Yep.
Bill, it's been great talking with you. Learned quite a bit, and kind of interesting all the different animals you have to hunt there in Utah. We don't have quite that many types of animals here. We have bobcats, and we do have some lions.
We've got the bobcats, the lions, bears. We got almost everything here. So
yeah, for a long time, the game parks never admit there's lions in here in Nebraska. And one place I was hunting, he said, "Yeah, we seen tracks in the '60s for them. It just didn't see them because enough forest area." Well, I've seen them a couple times, and until one got hit on the highway, then they had to admit that there was mountain lions here in the eastern part of Nebraska. You have a choice. You've got a dead one here, so there's a dead one. There's got to be more.
yeah, we get that with the wolves here. They claim they're not here, but we'll get tracks, and a few people get pictures here and there, and they just claim they're big coyotes.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if there's no season on them, shooting, it's like, okay, is this a big coyote or is this a wolf? And it's just a big dog.
This is the big coyote.
Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you. Learned a bunch, and for those that are still listening, thanks for listening. And just remember, we'll put some descriptions in the description. We'll put some contact information to get a hold of you if you want to do a hunt in Utah. Now you know a person that can take you out, really good at what he does, and we'll just leave a description in here to get a hold of him. And just remember, you can watch this on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, or in the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. You can also listen to it on Spotify as well as Audible. And my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm in the house today on Archery Talk 101 with Chad Stevens, and we've had a great time talking hunting. So we'll see you on the next one. See everybody later.